Hitting 500,000 miles, that's over 800,000 Ks, for us in Australia without major engine or gearbox rebuilds sounds absolutely impossible. But mechanical longevity isn't about luck. It comes down to a strict set of driving and maintenance habits that stop wear and tear before it even starts. Let's get straight into the biggest trap catching out Aussie drivers today. Habit 1. Halving your oil change intervals, the very first habit of million-kilometer drivers, is actively rejecting the modern manufacturer service manual. That might sound crazy, but here is the truth about those 15,000-kilometer or 12-month oil change intervals. Manufacturers design those schedules for ideal, perfect world driving conditions to make their cars look cheap to run on paper. But Australia is not an ideal driving environment. According to standard industry data, nearly all driving in Australia falls under what engineers call the severe duty category. Hot weather, dusty regional roads, stop-start city traffic, towing heavy loads, or long highway runs in extreme summer heat. All of these factors break down engine oil much faster than normal. The habit here is simple. Cut your oil change intervals in half. If the book says 15,000 Ks, do it at 7,500. But here's the part most people miss. It's not just about the oil losing its lubrication, it's about contamination. In modern common rail diesels, which make up a massive chunk of the Aussie market, soot bypasses the piston rings and turns the engine oil into a highly abrasive sludge. By dropping that oil early, you are physically flushing the grinding paste out of your engine before it can wear down your timing chain, your bearings, and your camshafts. That single habit is the foundation of a 500,000-mile engine. Habit 2. Cold start discipline now. Changing the oil won't help if you don't master the second habit, the cold start discipline. Most engine wear happens in the first 10 minutes of driving. When your car sits overnight, all the oil drains down into the sump. When you turn the key in the morning, the top of your engine is running essentially dry for a few crucial seconds. The real problem starts when people either idle their cars in the driveway for 10 minutes, thinking they are warming it up, or they jump in and immediately put their foot down. Both are terrible habits. Idling a cold engine means it takes much longer to reach its proper operating temperature, meaning it runs rich, washing the oil off the cylinder walls with unburnt fuel. On the other hand, revving a cold engine forces thick, cold oil through tight clearances, causing massive pressure spikes that can blow seals. The proven habit? Start the car, wait about 10 to 15 seconds for the oil pressure to stabilize, and then drive off gently. Keep your RPMs low and avoid heavy acceleration until the temperature gauge reaches the middle. Habit 3. Turbo shutdown discipline. This leads us to a crucial habit that specifically applies to our massive landscape and how we drive our UTEs and four-wheel drives. Turbo shutdown discipline. If you drive a turbo diesel Hilux, Ranger, D-Max, or even a turbocharged petrol SUV, this is non-negotiable when you are driving on the highway. Especially if you are towing a caravan or a tradie trailer up a hill, your turbocharger is spinning at over 100,000 RPMs and generating temperatures hot enough to melt certain metals. It is kept alive by a constant flow of engine oil that cools and lubricates the bearings, and that's exactly where many drivers go wrong. They pull off the highway straight into a roadhouse or a servo, park, and immediately turn the key off. When you kill the engine, the oil pump stops instantly. But the turbo is still burning hot. The oil sitting inside those ultra-hot turbo bearings literally boils, baking into a hard, crusty carbon deposit. Mechanics call this oil coking. Over time, this carbon destroys the turbo bearings, leading to a catastrophic failure that will cost you thousands. To make a turbo last 800,000 Ks, you must practice the idle down habit. After a long highway run or heavy towing, simply let the engine idle for about 1 to 2 minutes before turning it off. This keeps the oil circulating, carrying the extreme heat away from the turbo and safely cooling it down. It costs you absolutely nothing, but it saves one of the most expensive components in your car. Habit 4. Rejecting lifetime transmission fluid, speaking of expensive components, let's talk about the biggest lie sold to modern car buyers: lifetime transmission fluid. If you want your automatic transmission to survive the Aussie heat, you need to understand that no fluid lasts a lifetime. When car makers say lifetime, they usually mean the warranty lifetime of the vehicle, which is often just 100,000 to 150,000 kilometers. After that, you are on your own. Inside your automatic transmission, clutch packs are constantly slipping and gripping, creating heat and shedding microscopic friction material. When you tow a boat or sit in heavy Brisbane traffic, the transmission fluid gets incredibly hot. Over time, it loses its viscosity and its ability to protect the internal gears. Drivers who reach that 500,000 mile mark ignore the Sealed for Life sticker. Based on common maintenance guidelines for high mileage vehicles, you should be dropping the transmission fluid and changing the filter every 60,000 to 80,000 Ks. Fresh fluid keeps the valve body clean and prevents the clutches from burning out, ensuring the gearbox outlasts the body of the car itself. Habit 5. Avoiding the short trip trap. This brings us to a driving habit that directly impacts modern diesels: avoiding the short trip trap. In Australia, we buy diesel UTEs and SUVs for everything, even if we just use them for doing the grocery run or dropping the kids at school. This is where it gets interesting and very expensive. Modern diesels are equipped with a diesel particulate filter, or DPF. Its job is to catch soot from the exhaust, but when that filter gets full, it needs to burn the soot off at extremely high temperatures, a process called regeneration. Here is the catch: a DPF cannot regenerate if you are only driving 5 kilometers down the road at 50 kilometers an hour. The exhaust never gets hot enough. If you constantly do short trips, the DPF clogs up completely. The engine will choke, throw a check engine light, and put the car into limp mode. The proven habit to avoid this: if you own a modern diesel, you must take it for a solid highway run at least once every couple of weeks. Get the car up to 100 kilometers an hour and keep it there for at least 30 minutes. This gives the exhaust system the time and the heat it needs to run a full regeneration cycle, keeping the DPF totally clear and extending the life of your engine. Habit 6. Strict air filter hygiene. Now, let's talk about how the unique Australian environment attacks your car from the outside in. We have some of the finest, most abrasive dust in the world, commonly known out in the regions as bulldust. Many drivers think an air filter is just a piece of paper they can ignore until the mechanic decides to change it. But for your engine, the air filter is its primary line of defense. If your air filter is clogged, your engine struggles to breathe, running rich and washing oil from the cylinders. Worse, if you use cheap aftermarket filters that don't seal properly inside the airbox, microscopic particles of abrasive Aussie dust will bypass the filter and go straight into the engine. Once that dust is inside, it acts exactly like liquid sandpaper. It grinds down the cylinder walls, destroys the piston rings, and permanently ruins the engine's compression. You will never see 500,000 miles if your engine is breathing dirt. The habit here is strict filter hygiene. Check your engine air filter every 10,000 Ks. If you've been driving on dirt roads or in dusty convoys, check it immediately after the trip. Tap the dust out and never try to blow it clean with high-pressure compressed air that actually tears the microscopic paper fibers and ruins the filter's ability to catch dirt. Buy high-quality ohm filters. The extra $20 is the cheapest engine insurance you can buy. Habit 7. Secondary fuel filtration. Filtration isn't just about air though. In Australia, fuel quality can be highly variable, especially if you are traveling vast distances between remote roadhouses. Water and contamination in diesel fuel is a silent killer of common rail fuel injectors. These modern injectors operate at unbelievable pressures and rely on the diesel fuel itself for lubrication. Even a tiny amount of water passing through the system can instantly blow the tip off an injector or destroy the high-pressure fuel pump. When that happens, metal shavings get sent through the entire fuel system, resulting in massive repair bills. High mileage drivers don't trust the fuel coming out of the pump. The proven habit to avoid this disaster is installing a secondary pre-fuel filter and water separator in the engine bay. It gives you a visual bowl where you can physically see if water has made it into your fuel line, allowing you to drain it before it ever reaches the expensive factory filter and the engine. Habit 8. Mechanical sympathy on rough roads. Another driving habit that destroys cars prematurely is ignoring the concept of mechanical sympathy over rough roads. Australia has some of the worst regional road surfaces in the developed world, full of potholes, corrugations, and patched bitumen. When you hit a pothole at high speed without slowing down, you are not just hurting the tire. That massive kinetic energy is transferred directly into the wheel bearings, the ball joints, the suspension bushings, and the steering rack. Drivers who make their cars last forever constantly scan the road ahead. If they see a rough patch or a speed bump, they slow down before it, and crucially, they release the brake pedal right before the tire hits the bump. If you hit a bump with your foot hard on the brake, the suspension is fully compressed and locked up. It cannot absorb the impact, meaning the chassis of the car takes the full, brutal force of the blow. Releasing the brake right before impact allows the suspension to do its job and saves your front end. Conclusion: when you put all of these habits together, you realize that reaching 500,000 miles without a major repair isn't a miracle. It is a predictable outcome. Cars don't just randomly break. They degrade slowly due to neglected fluids, massive temperature swings, bad filtration, and poor driving inputs, by over-servicing the engine oil, managing turbo and transmission heat. Using mechanical sympathy on the road and adapting to the harsh Australian conditions, you are effectively pausing the wear and tear on your vehicle's most expensive parts. Your car is a machine, and it will give back exactly what you put into it. Start applying these habits today, and you'll keep your vehicle on the road for decades. If you found these tips helpful and want to see more real-world advice on keeping your car running forever, make sure you share this video with a mate who needs to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one.